in total.
The political management of Leaving Cert 2020 was a lesson in chaos. Last year, decisions were made and reversed on a weekly basis. And Minister, it feels like we're back to square one. Students around the country currently are having their stress levels ratcheted up, in large part due to the political chaos around this particular issue. I know of students who have lost months last year in school, will lose a month this year. I know of a student who's sitting in his back garden every day in the cold. As a result, it's the only place where he can get the necessary internet connection to participate in lessons. There's been some debate on whether or not exams should go on this year or not. But the key point is the students are being left in the dark. And the key point is that the government needs to make a decision on this ASAP. I also want to put on the record my opposition to the closure of special schools. This was an absolute disgrace, Minister. Joanne Murphy, an Aintu colleague of mine in County Cork, made the headlines in recent days when she spoke of her own experience. She has a son, 15 years old, who has autism. And she did not know how to tell her son that the schools were not going to reopen, because she knew that if she did tell her son, his heart would be broken. She said in the last lockdown, and I quote, "The last lockdown, his anxiety shot through the roof. He went from being a happy, easygoing child to hitting out and talking repetitively." Thousands of parents in the last couple of weeks have had the experience of watching their children regress before their eyes on a daily basis, Minister. The other sector that I want to speak about very briefly is children from disadvantaged backgrounds. Education offers them a lifeline. And I also worry about children who are at risk of abuse too. Last year, Minister, the number of referrals to TUSLA during the lockdown fell massively. And that's because teachers are best placed to notice the warning signs with regards to children at risk. Domestic violence, mental health and drug and alcohol abuse is on the rise in families around this country, and many children are being left in really difficult situations in the middle of that. So the questions I have for you, Minister, are very simply on this. First of all, when making decisions, will you do so in complete partnership with the stakeholders, the teachers, the unions, the parents and the students? When you don't do that, it leads to the crisis that we saw last week. Why was special education and education for children from disadvantaged areas closed? And Minister, will you commit here today on the floor of this Dáil to making a declaration with regards to the future of the Leaving Cert this year, in the next fortnight, so that the anxiety levels of students around the country can be punctured?
Thank you. Minister, you have just over 1 minute.
Thank you. Thank you, Deputy. In relation to the provision for special education, I do agree with you. It remains an absolute priority to ensure that children with additional needs are catered for in the midst of a lockdown and otherwise. And it was for all of those reasons that I, and indeed government, made the decision that in the midst of this present lockdown, that children with additional needs would be catered for. It was proved difficult for the partners in education. We are in a better position today, and I am happy with the announcement that has been made today. In terms of operating with complete partnership with the parents and the students and the teachers, that has always been the hallmark of everything that we have done in education. Indeed, the advisory committee in relation, you specifically raised the Leaving Certificate, is constituted to include the parents, the teachers, the students, the managerial bodies, the principals, deputy principals, all of those engaged in that sector. So be under no illusions about that. And that advisory committee continues to meet. And, for example, in terms of Leaving Cert, accommodations that were necessary in terms of last year have been put in place. And the advisory committee will continue to look at all contingencies and all measures as regards Leaving Certificate 2021.
Thank you, Minister. Deputy